One of my favorite people, Becky Hughes, ladies and gentlemen.
I brought along my props. You see, because JD's a real fanatic about packing to go on tour. You know, he said Elvis taught him a long time ago that you don't need to take a lot of garbage, and he especially taught me that after we decided to leave on a 100-day tour, and I had about 3 van loads of clothes to take. He said, you know, there's no reason for anybody to take all that mess that Jake Hess drags along with him on the Masters 5 bus. He said, basically, you know, just keep most of your clothes on the bus. All you got to do is take some underwear, and what I do, I wear a pair and I take a spare. And all you have to do then is kind of just sponge them out. Well, see, this is what JD's room looks like in the motel. The only thing missing is the ice bucket that he soaks his teeth in. Now you may ask me why these underwear are red. I'm going to tell you about that. You see, JD washes his underwear out in shampoo, and it turns them pink, but this pair he got a little too much. What happened was, this is a true story. The Masters 5 were on tour in Texas, and JD was in there washing out his underwear. Hovey called him on the phone and said, JD, the pastor just called. We got to go over to church and take some pictures, and we need to go right now. And JD left the room, grabbed his stuff and left the room, and he forgot to turn the water off when he was rinsing out his undies. When he got back in the room at 10:30 that night, the room was knee-deep in water, and he had to pay $85 to have the water pumped out of that hotel room. That is the truth. With my hand up, Wendy. In fact, there was even an 84-year-old lady that had reported that she saw a pair of men's shorts floating down the hall past her room. Now here's the problem, JD. Sweetheart, it's all right to just wear a pair and take a spare. But you got to remember that when you hang them on the light like this, sometimes that light bulb burns them. And so you've got to get a new pair every once in a while. George Johnson, I'm going to give these to you for the Hall of Fame. Now I've got another little presentation in there, George. I don't know what I'd do without George Johnson. He's so sweet. JD, I've got a little presentation. I'll put these right here. Okay. I love you, JD. And this inscription on here says from one to another. Okay? They told me at the trophy shop that this is called a half horse. Now I've heard you call it something else, but I'm not going to say that. But anyway, I want you to have it. On a more serious note, we've roasted him real good, but I've burned him, but I also want to say something nice about him too. You folks out there, some of you who are his personal friends know this about him. But those of you who don't, some of you just see him at Masters 5 concerts. And you know him as a rough, gruff, jovial, prankster, fun-loving guy, a bass singer for the Masters 5 who loves gospel music. But I would like for you to know the J.D. Sumner that I know. Connie Hopper, I may have to borrow your hanky. Beneath the rough, gruff exterior of this man, there's a man whose heart is so big it cannot be measured. It's made of pure gold. And until you've had the chance to sit down with him and to share his tears and his heartaches, to share his disappointments, to share his love for all of you, his gospel music friends, you really don't have the total picture of J.D. Sumner. He would give you the shirt off his back. I remember a time in 1977, some of you will remember this, when an old man by the name of Reverend Cleavant Derricks, who penned the great song, Just a Little Talk with Jesus. He was at the National Quartet Convention. He was sick, but he appeared that night. And just 2 short days later, it was Sylvia Mays of the Singing News who was going around and trying to help Reverend Cleavant get in the hospital at Vanderbilt. He did not have insurance. They would not admit him until we had so many $100 to get him in. It was Mr. J.D. Sumner who saw to it that the first several hundred was given, and he told Sylvia, "Who else? Do you need something else?" She said, "I think I've got a commitment from so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so." He said, "Baby, if you don't, you come back to me and I'll see that you get it." This is the J.D. Sumner I know. He wanted no credit for that, but he's always willing to help. He's the first to reach in his pocket to give, and I appreciate him for that. J.D. has accomplished many things in gospel music. Maybe you don't always agree with the methods that he's used. Sometimes I think they're a little wild, but you have to agree with me, he always gets the job done. Always gets the job done. We're at the National Quartet Convention. This roast has become a part of the great NQC here in Nashville that many, many years was the brainchild of J.D. Sumner. And it's because of this man that we sit here today, that this has grown into such a great organization, because J.D. dared to go to James Blackwood and beg him to let them start a National Quartet Convention. And I appreciate him for that. When one of J.D.'s PR people, shortly before the Stamps disbanded, was talking to him about his program, it was LaWayne Satterfield, and she said, "J.D., what you need to do is get the cream of the crop from the Statesmen, the Blackwoods, the Stamps, the Imperials, and start your own group." And LaWayne put an idea in J.D.'s head that day, and that's all it took, was the mere mention of that. And the Masters 5 was made reality because J.D. put that idea into motion. And what a great quartet, what nostalgia, what legends we have in them today. Thank you for that, J.D. And last, I may never have this opportunity to stand before you again. J.D. and I may both have to retire after this roast. However, I do want to thank him. I love you, J.D., and I thank you for your diligence. He loves gospel music more than life. He's dared to be different. He's been so honest so much sometimes to a fault that it's gotten him in a lot of trouble, and me too. Amen, brother. I won't tell everything. But he's worked hard, and I appreciate him paving the way. The pioneering that has been done by J.D. Sumner and people like him has paved the way in gospel music for young people like Ron Williams and myself. and Billy Blackwood, whose life was entrusted into his hands at the year of 14 years of age, when James sent him to be the drummer for the Stamps Quartet. That's how much he trusted him. And for other young people like Sharon Watts with the Hoppers and Dean Hopper, and the countless number of young people that has had their way paved, their road made easier because of the diligence of men like J.D. Sumner. I appreciate him and I love him, and I'll treasure our friendship forever. Thank you. And I've just got one more presentation to make to let him know that I really love him. I see him day in and day out. And a lot of times I tell him I love him, and I hope he doesn't think that they're just empty words, because I really do love him with all my heart. And I may not tell you every day, but I don't want you to ever forget that I do love you.